I'm afraid I have so much respect for your loss, because losing a child, I think, is like losing a part of yourself. And thank you for sharing with me how you've dealt with that and how you've managed to focus that in your own mind, how you've attempted to come to terms with your loss. I wonder, is there anything you would have changed about how you dealt with the end of his life? How did you approach that after he passed away?
Well, he came to stay with me in my cottage for a few days, and so we had a time together before he then fell out with me because his dog was digging up my garden and I was trying to stop her, and went off because he was close to having an episode of his illness. He was close, he was wobbly.
How old was he?
He was 55 when he died, and so that time together was quite precious. And I had a poor neck, and he massaged my neck for me, and he had such very strong, comforting hands. And he spoke to me of how he did that when he was in hospital on the psychiatric units and wards. He would massage other patients, and I thought then that would have been a lovely career for him because he was very caring.
Passing on almost a healing.
Yes.
A healing energy within himself.
Yeah.
Maybe he could channel his own emotions into helping others.
Yes, I think he would have done. Mind you, he did spend his life helping others.
Did he?
He did. He was the chief executive of a mental health charity, and on that site they put an opportunity for people who knew James to put remembrances and passage about their relationship with James. And my eldest son, James's brother, he was over from the Caribbean, and he sat by my computer and my printer, and he printed off all these messages that people had sent, and we had 14 A4 pages of people saying lovely things about James and how he had helped them in their lives.
That must make the tragedy even more poignant for you.
Well, yes.
That he was helping others and yet felt so empty within himself.
Yes, he just didn't want another episode in hospital. And I can see it through his eyes.
You said how painful it was when you had to take him to the hospital. He didn't want to be there.
Yeah, it was hard to watch him suffer because they medicate them so heavily that you lose your child to the medication.
Yeah.
And I said to the doctor initially when he was 18 and came away from Sandhurst, and the doctor started writing prescriptions for medication, and I'm anti-medication anyway. And I said, but what did they do years ago before they had all these drugs to give people? And he said, oh, just lock them up.
Goodness me.
So that was the alternative, really.
So how did you approach how you wanted to say goodbye to him? You had a funeral, or?
Oh yes, we had a lovely funeral.
Did you?
We did. His wife didn't want it to be open, and she just wanted close members of the family. But my sister's family are very, very outgoing and very religious, really. But they're the modern type of Christian, and they all turned up. So she couldn't turn them back because they came from Kingston upon Thames and London and places. And so it was very much a little family funeral in a big room. But what we'd asked, my nephew took the service because he's able to do that. He's got the right manner and voice. Mm-hmm. And I asked, and Leslie agreed, if we could have some opportunities within that service for people to offer what they remember about James or what they would like to say about James.
Lovely.
And so we had these quiet moments which Tim said to everyone, these are opportunities for you to just contemplate James or offer a little story about him. And that took off.
Wow.
And the funeral director said afterwards that he'd seldom been to a funeral where there was so much love.
Isn't that lovely? Oh, bless you.
Yeah. So
That was lovely.
it's hard, I suppose, but that was very satisfying to think that he'd had that type of farewell.
Absolutely. And did he choose to be buried or cremated?
Well, it wasn't his choice, his wife. He was cremated. Yes, I think it all happened that day. Yes, it did, because he went off, didn't he? But there was an inquest into his death.
Right.
Which delayed everything quite a lot. We all felt that we'd done what James would have liked us to have done.
That's good.
I think.
And was he a person that would have liked a formal interment, or did he want to be scattered somewhere precious to him, or did he like a
We've
natural
still
world?
got his ashes.
You still got the ashes?
They're in my middle room, and I talk to them often as I pass. So, yeah. They're on their way back to his wife, because my daughter actually went to the funeral director and picked them up because his wife was not coping with everything. So my daughter had them for a while, and then they've come as far as me, and they're on their way to go back to his wife. But because there's been the stresses within the family, really, relationship stresses, and it was very hard for his wife. They didn't have any children.
Is this issues caused by his death, or
Yes.
just? Oh, I
Yes.
see.
And because of that, there's still an issue about what we're going to do with his ashes. But I think we will take them to the beach at Penhill, which his father wanted his ashes scattered in the sea off Penhill. I want my ashes to go to Penhill, which is a lovely little local beach. Very quiet, rough and ready beach, you know, not a one where there's lots of people. And I think we'll end up getting his ashes there. But with this schism that there was with my daughter, that wouldn't have been possible anyway, to have the family together. But now we're coming back together. Thanks to you a lot, because this would have been our first occasion together.
That's amazing.
So thank you.
And that will be your closing point, won't it?
Yes, and then we've got to get his wife Leslie in a bed. She's just, actually her mother's just gone into hospital this week with a heart attack, you know, it's all these things to cope with.
As we get older, our friends are falling away, and families, I mean, as I mentioned to you, you just look incredible. The situation here today is we're talking basically about, are there any regrets around what you've done for your son in this instance? And obviously there isn't. It sounds absolutely wonderful. You've done what you wanted, you've done what he would have wanted.
Yeah. He said to me when he came to stay those few days, which made me think he wasn't thinking of taking his life initially, because he said, "Mum, you don't have to worry about moving out of the cottage," he said, "because I'll move in and help you." I don't think he thought it properly through, but that was going through his mind then. So he obviously thought he'd got a future then. But it's difficult to read the mind of someone with
bipolar. Yes, I think if mental health hasn't touched you, it's not something one focuses on, because it's a very misunderstood illness, isn't it? It's one of these hidden disabilities that they talk about now. And when you think about Exeter, with the two mental hospitals we had there that were huge, it always interests me that Freud used the word hysterectomy from hysteria, because so many men used to put their wives into institutions like Exminster Hospital and Digby in Exeter, under the hysteria, get themselves a nice new wife and put the one away that was a bit difficult. So mental health has always had such a stigma to it.
Yeah.
So
it's tricky to understand.
It is.
It is.
But the fact that you have chosen beaches, I think is lovely. It sort of fits in with the thinking around meadows. This whole thing about remembrance for us is for the company called Meadows. And it's to give people the opportunity to have a much more natural situation, to have their ashes or bodies placed in, where they can have trees and wildflowers and somewhere where people can go and acknowledge their loved one in that one position. So, yes, I think less and less people want to be in a churchyard with a headstone, and it's for the family to hold them close in their hearts and visit them where they choose to be.
Well, my husband, he was a very outgoing person, a raconteur, and music. He was always first on the dance floor and partying. He was the farmer. He was great for that. And he didn't want a funeral with people attending, and he set it all up way before he died, several years before he died. But the funeral director allowed his daughter and me to just go into the service, because they take the coffin in and it goes through the procedures that it would go through if people were there.
Oh,
it still does that. So the coffin disappeared, and Sarah and I were there, and we'd made little bouquets to put on the top. I got some moss and put some red camellias in a basket with the moss under them. And Sarah had done a little arrangement. She asked her brothers and sisters, and they each chose a wild flower or favourite flower that Sarah put into a basket to come from his children. And so that was Derek's passing, but then he wanted a party.
He wanted a party?
So we put on a big party at Sarah's equestrian centre. Am I meant to be talking about this, really?
No,
it's all part of the
all part of your process.
Yeah, and they've got an equestrian centre, and they've got big barns with the horses in. And on the end of one barn is a dovecot.
Beautiful.
Up at the top there, and down below there is this yard area with buildings round it, so a degree of shelter. And Derek played the clarinet wonderfully, but jazz, not serious stuff. And when his clarinet teacher knew that he'd died, she wanted to come along with. She brought 2 groups along with her, and there was one of our Quakers plays something like a didgeridoo or something. He plays, and he did something, and so these people wanted to come and offer their tributes to Derek, and I wrote an eulogy. Eulogy, that's what I'm looking for. I wrote 3 pages, and 3 of the children, of Derek's children, because the one in California wasn't there, read a page each.
Oh, lovely.
To these gathered people who were in the yard and tucking into a cream tea, and the musicians and down one side. And while they were reading, the doves took off from their dovecot and flew over the party and departed in the other direction.
Sounds absolutely beautiful.
Now.
It really does.
The sun was shining.
So you sound as if you're a family anyway that had this wonderful environment that you could be in and still be part of. But it's all very a natural process that you wanted to go through.
Yes, I think.
Not the formal churchyard
No, because Derek wasn't a religious man.
No.
But I think he would have appreciated that. And the doves made a big effort. So that was a nice way, wasn't it?
Beautiful way.
Goodbye to him.
And your family have got a place to hone in on when you want to be with your son and when you want to be with your husband. It's all part of a wonderful place that you have in North Devon.
They're part of our lives,
yes,
really. But
I think a lot of people haven't got that situation. They live in towns or cities, and what do they do? Where can they go other than these formal churchyards? So I think I'm asking you as well, I suppose, if you were in that environment, something much more natural would be more appealing.
I think that's the way I've always been. I've always lent towards a natural existence. I don't like too much interference. I like my life to happen. In fact, there's a very good book that the Quakers have just written, a Quaker, called A Guided Life.
A guided life.
A Guided Life. And it's all about how your life can evolve without too much effort from yourself, in a way.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Just get up each day and let it unfold.
See what...
Thank you for sharing. I think it's been lovely to be able to see you today. This lovely smile when you've been through such a lot. I think losing our parents, losing our husbands as we get older, it's all part of the pattern we expect life to follow. But when a child makes a big blip like that's a huge hole to fall into.
It's been an exercise, really, but it's had its rewards, and it sits comfortably now.
Before your son, did you actually have a celebration of his life? Obviously, you had a wonderful one for your husband.
Do you know, we have...
That's something that's still...
It's still
there to be
out
done.
there. It's still out there, really. I think we've got to let these wounds heal.
Find some closure.
Yes, yes. And Sue, if she were here, she would have her angle on things, which is quite different from mine, but it would be interesting nonetheless. But
because we all come to a relationship from a different angle, don't we? You're his mum.
Yes.
She was his sister.
Yes.
Then you've got a wife.
Yes.
Did they have children?
No.
But that was probably lucky.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, if such a thing can be lucky. Less emotional journeys for people to take.
Yes, it has been a journey, but then life is journey.
It is a journey, yes. We could do without the pitfalls. And then we could smile all the time.
But, yes, that wouldn't be real, though.
No, it wouldn't be real at all.
No, perhaps not.
Sometimes it's our heartaches that make us the people we are.
Quite often, yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you for listening.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you so much.